Hello everyone, I'm Bable Jonathan and this is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. The president of the Republic of Cameroun, Paul Biya, calls on separatist fighters in the two Anglophone regions of the country, the northwest and the southwest regions, to put down their arms as government finds a way out of the socio-political and security crisis rocking those two regions for more than 2 years today. Speaking today shortly after taking the oath of service at the hemicycle in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, President Paul Biya pledged to restore peace in the two crisis-stricken regions of the country. Stay with us. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in this edition of the Primetime News on Equinoxe Television. The President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, has been sworn in for a 7th term in office after his re-election at the October 7 presidential election, in which he won 71.28% of the vote. He was sworn in today at the National Assembly during a ceremony that brought together members of the upper and lower houses of Parliament as well as other national and international dignitaries. A ceremony presided at by House Speaker Kavayeke Jibril and the President of the Republic of Cameroon. Paul Biya pronounced the ritual statement, "I do so swear," for a 7th time. He is therefore going to be leading the Republic of Cameroon for the next 7 years. Smart Jikan Gabriel now comes up with a roundup of the President's speech, in which he called on separatist fighters in the two Anglophone regions of the Republic of Cameroon to put down their arms as government finds a way out of the socio-political and security crisis in those two regions, the northwest and the southwest regions of the country. And the crisis has led to the death of many, and of course thousands, hundreds of thousands have been displaced internally and externally. Smart Jikan Gabriel with a summary of President Paul Biya's inaugural speech.
Je lance un appel à déposer les armes et à retrouver le droit chemin.
The call from the president-elect of Cameroon to the separatist fighters was very clear and was one of the key points as Biya Paul took the oath to govern Cameroon for another 7 years, even though many had expected him to announce the holding of a dialogue to end the Anglophone upheavals. Biya Paul further sent a warning to those fighting to separate Cameroon.
À ces entrepreneurs de guerre,
the warmongers who are jeopardizing our national unity and preaching secession should know that they will not only face the full force of the law, but also the determination of our defense and security forces.
Forces de défense et de sécurité.
For him, the advancement in the decentralization process, which has been on course, will definitely provide answers to the worries raised by the people of the northwest and southwest regions.
Un bon nombre de réponses à ces préoccupations et à ces aspirations sera apporté dans le cadre de l'accélération du processus de décentralisation en cours.
Apart from the crisis in the two English-speaking regions, the head of state had time to look back at the past 7 years he just ended, which he described wasn't rosy because of the security challenges in the far north caused by Boko Haram.
Nous avons d'abord été confrontés aux attaques répétées.
We had repeated attacks from Boko Haram that caused terror and hardship to the people of the far north, but we stood firm to that challenge thanks to our partners and friendly nations. Though stabilized, we remain vigilant and determined.
Aujourd'hui, la situation est stabilisée, mais nous restons vigilants et déterminés.
In the domain of economy, the president promised to develop sectors of the economy that will reduce the importation of goods and services, and also promised to make Cameroon one of the top producers of electricity. Social amenities, which have always been the cry of several Cameroonians, the president of the Republic reassures that it will be given to the least person.
Améliorer l'accès aux services publics de l'eau potable et de l'électricité, à renforcer notre système de santé en ouvrant de nouveaux hôpitaux.
After the era of greater achievement, here comes the era of great opportunities of Biapol that all eyes watch keenly to see the changes.
Je persisterai.
President Paul Biya's economic vision for the new mandate centers on the belief that a modern economy cannot be conceived without the existence of a performing industrial sector. Reasons for the promise of what he qualifies as a master plan of industrialization, which will define the contours and contents of major projects in the economic domain. One of such structures, according to the president, will be the industrialization of the agricultural sector, which practically has to do with modernizing the means of production and further transformation of agricultural products. These also include the provision of new equipment like tractors, improved storage facilities, and the provision of farm-to-market roads. Roads will not be the only infrastructure, as President Paul Biya plans to exploit sites and streams for both solar and hydroelectric energy in order to make Cameroon a big electricity supply producer in Africa. President Paul Biya says he will gradually provide solar plants in rural Cameroon, build port and airport in towns and cities across the country for the benefit of the economy. In terms of finance, the new old president plans to strengthen the budgetary balance and reinforce the sustainability of Cameroon's debt. Conscious of the changes that are ongoing at the international level, especially with threats of protectionism and isolationism, President Paul Biya plans to focus on developing sectors of the economy that can significantly reduce imports of goods and services in Cameroon. This policy will have the advantage to allow us to rebalance our trade balance, chronically deficit, stated President Paul Biya. Unlike in 2011, when a similar message from President Paul Biya laid emphasis on specific projects, his 2018 inaugural speech failed to do so.
That was for me, Armstrong Sanda, reporting there on the announcements made by the President of the Republic of Cameroon in his inaugural speech as far as the economy of the country is concerned. And while the ceremony was going on at the Hemicycle in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, here in the economic capital, Douala, Little Governor Samuel Dieudonné Ivaha Diboa and other top officials of the region converged in the conference room of the governor's office in Bonanjo to follow up the happenings at the Hemicycle in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. And of course, the governor of the Littoral region, Samuel Dieudonné Ivaha Diboa, spoke to the press shortly after the swearing-in ceremony of the President of the Republic, and he notably highlighted the President's declaration concerning the Anglophone crisis. Take a listen to Governor Samuel Dieudonné Ivaha Diboa.
Commander-in-Chief of the Army and the Force of Security. And as he has said in this speech, we can just say that we have confidence on him, and also he is aware of all what is going on. You see, he is giving the way. He's telling us that he have understood many things coming from Northwest and Southwest. You have understood many things and you know what to do. The first thing he's going to do is to impose the decentralizations and maybe giving more strength to the local councils to have means to develop the city or the way where they are located. And to say also that he is not giving away for all those who want to disturb this country. He is the one who is the keeper of the constitutions and also implementing the laws. So we are grateful that he is going to do something for our brothers that are in Northwest and Southwest, and let us just wait a few days after what he's going to do.
The governor of the littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon, Samuel Dieudonné Vahadiboa, speaking to the press there shortly after the swearing-in ceremony of President Paul Biya, a ceremony that was keenly watched live while it was going on at the hemicycle in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. And in Yaoundé, there was celebration at the Central Regional Governor's Office following the swearing-in ceremony of the President of the Republic, Paul Biya. Governor Nasiri Paul Biya and his collaborators celebrated the event. Take a listen to Governor Nasiri Paul Biya. He spoke to a correspondent in Yaoundé, Marcel Ngassap.
Yes, we want to first of all acknowledge the head of state, President Paul Biya, as our president in what we have done, in the symbolism of what has happened today, because the hierarchy asked to feast with our brothers and sisters, especially those who will not even be able to arrive at the Unity Palace. So we want to congratulate the head of state on this feasting. We want to say we are behind him, that we are accompanying him in our own small way for the success of his 7-year mandate. And secondly, that all what he has promised, especially to the Central region, yes, our expectations are many and they are high, given that the center remains the center. And so, but he has promised for the general Cameroonians and especially the Central region to solve the problems and the energy crisis, to solve the problem of roads, the problems plaguing civil service and the civil servants in Cameroon, and more especially the Anglophone crisis. I think this one took a greater part of his speech, and we hope to see that this problem is solved once and for all, so that the Cameroonians can continue to be together, to live together, to work together in harmony for the progress of this country.
We equally spoke to a senior political scientist and former member of the Cameroon government, Professor Elvis Ngolengole, shortly after the swearing-in of President Paul Biya. He takes a look at the inaugural speech of President Paul Biya in this extract on phone from Yaoundé. Professor Elvis Ngolengole, political scientist and former Minister of Forestry and Wildlife of the Republic of Cameroon. He spoke to us analyzing the inaugural speech of President Paul Biya. We expecting the excerpt of Professor Elvis Ngolengole, who is a political scientist and former member of the Cameroon government, who notably speaking to us on phone highlighted some of the major issues that the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, raised in his inaugural speech, focusing in a particular manner on the Anglophone crisis that the President of the Republic equally spoke about, indicating or calling on pro-independence fighters in the northwest and southwest regions of the country to put down their guns and come back to the fold. And of course, he pledged to restore peace in the crisis-stricken parts of the country. And we should indicate that thousands have been displaced by the crisis already internally and externally, while equally many have died and many are suffering. The President of the Republic spoke about all of this in his inaugural speech. Take a listen to Professor Elvis Ngolengole. We'll surely be coming back to that shortly. We'll be coming back to that shortly. Now we're going to take another reaction. Tria Shwebu is a member of the civil society, an entrepreneur, a political observer. Take a listen to Tria Shwebu.
Stand in the first place that we don't manage a country without giving the checks and balance. From the speech of the President of the Republic, he made us to actually understand what has happened in the past 7 years that he took the oath. I think that was in 2011. He has given some balances of the major project that he has carried so far. He has equally indicated the different challenges like the security, the social and the economic challenges that he faced the past 7 years. So actually he equally presented the social and the economic, even the political situation of Cameroon in the next 7 years to come. The President of the Republic made Cameroonians to understand that he is aware of the political and even the socio-economic crisis that is actually eating our two regions, that is the Northwest and the Southwest. He made Cameroonians to understand that he is aware of this situation, he knows what is happening, and he is going to address this issue in the most immediate future. And he said he has equally called the secessionists or the separatists actually to lay down their arms, to come together on a round table, let them sit together and actually look at the way forward. He went as far as emphasizing that in the months ahead or in the nearest future, decentralization will be effective in our different regions, and he thinks that that is actually what will bring an answer to the different problems that Cameroonian has already expressed in the past. He equally made mention about the multiculturalism and the bilingualism commission he put in place some months back. Even though this commission has not been too effective in the field, but he said he will equally make this commission to actually come out with an effective result to drive away some of the social difficulties that Cameroonians has been facing. And one of the important things I actually took note of is the fact that the President of the Republic said that he is aware of the different frustration that our compatriot from the Northwest and the Southwest has been going through for the past years, and he then promised to actually bring a solution to this socio-economic and even political problems situation in the nearest future.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. We are receiving political analyst Ako John. Ako, you're welcome.
It's a pleasure.
You equally listen to the President of the Republic and you follow the different reactions of the governors of the Central Region, the Littoral Region, and even Treya Shebu is a member of the civil society and an entrepreneur. What's your take on the government's inaugural speech?
Yeah, the President of the Republic has again come out in one of the decorative speeches. I call them decorative because in several instances he basically reminded Cameroonians of what is existing, and that what is existing, we are going to consolidate what we have done, and again recognizes the failure of the government and the country as a whole to meet its financial target. I mean, he recognizes that there's also a financial stress on the government. One of the things which he applauded himself was the victory they have had on Boko Haram in the northern regions of the country, and together with his partners, he equally used the opportunity to thank the international partners that Cameroon has fought together to make the Boko Haram a history or a story in the past. So one time again, we intended to see from the President of the Republic something that is going to be new, something that is going to give aspiration for the next 7 years, which we have given him, as he said that Cameroonians had voted him and that he would like to thank Cameroonians for once more giving him this confidence.
And he equally talked about the Anglophone crisis, calling on the separatist fighters to put down their guns, but he didn't mention the over close to 100, about 80 students of Presbyterian Secondary School and Quen in the Northwest Regional Capital, Bamenda, who are until now in the hands of the kidnappers.
Yeah, if maybe the speech was drafted long before yesterday, and you know in Cameroon, leaders and political representatives always have speeches written, it will always be very difficult for them not to have read what others thought it was current news, and we don't know how far. You know, a lot of those stories too have been claimed to be faked, and that these children might have not been arrested by those we thought to be separatists or secessionists, that it is a melange between some state powers and other powers around and other demonic forces that have mingled themselves within the Anglophone crisis. One of the things on that the head of state is calling for secessionists to drop their weapons, and it baffles me because I remember one time that the head of state was the one that declared war against this individual, and that the beginning of war started with his statement at the airport in Simalen. He was coming from a meeting from France, and what he had was to call for war. I would have been amazed and flattered if the head of state was going to use his modest opinion and position to call the military back to the base. Remember, when the crisis started, a lot of issues were tabled, that those who have been arrested should be released, that the military should go back to their base, and that dialogue should resume. For now, we haven't seen any. A few of those who were arrested during the crisis, just a few, have been partially released. Others are still littering in prison yards all over the country. Again, the military still continue with its actions in the field. It is better to live in a civilian atmosphere than to live within a military atmosphere. We have recognized the threat that this war is causing.
Are you saying that what the head of state said in his inaugural speech concerning the Anglophone crisis will have no impact?
I am just saying it is not different with what other state officials have said, that even political agendas and propaganda ministers of his very power had called on separatists.
But many have been condemning him for not speaking to the Anglophone population like a father. And today he spoke and said, I recognize, I acknowledge, I'm aware of the problems on the ground.
Mr. Babila, he is not addressing to Southern Cameroonians. He is not addressing to the Northwest and the Southwest regions. He is addressing to all Cameroonians. People have been thinking that the head of state, with its position, should have the capacity, should have the power to speak on the issue. We don't know why the president like us failed to talk it to his people. He has time visiting Europe. He knows what European presidents are doing. I believe at the corridors of every presidency in Europe, there is what we call a press conference center, which means everything happening in the country, as the first political leader of that nation, you address citizens at every break. But we have never seen him coming out to address this issue as an issue. Most often than not, it is either he has addressed them during the 31st of December as part of the speech. It is either, like we have seen today, this came as part of the speech. It was not the purpose for today. I believe if the head of state will come one evening, that we need to handle this issue and speak to Cameroonians as a statesman, it will have some meaning than incorporating it as part of an agenda of a particular ceremony.
Away from the Anglophone crisis, he highlighted some projects in the economic domain that he intends to realize in the next 7 years in order to boost the country's economy.
We are not saying, I still repeat, he repeated what we have seen already, that is going to boost agriculture, is going to give more finances to small and medium-sized enterprises. We are going to increase energy. We are going to give Cameroonians good infrastructure. He is equally reminded of education. And again, he insisted on giving more finances to health. I believe we have seen all this. But when it comes, I take them point after point, Cameroonians don't have drinking water. It has been a problem in Douala, and this has been appearing on the speeches of the president. We are just in it, a media house. You remember, with the shut off and on of electricity, with the various dams we have seen projects in line, has that solved the problem? We are constructing the second bridge over the Vuri. Has that stopped the congestion over the roads within the city of Douala? What do you think about Yaoundé? What are we doing with the infrastructure? What can we write home when it comes to agriculture? Have Cameroonians resisted from eating foreign meals than consuming Cameroonian products? Are we capable of feeding Cameroon from agricultural meals or food stuff items produced in Cameroon? Can we say Cameroon is hunger free? These are where we evaluate. As malaria, others, and he took typhoid, has it stopped killing Cameroonians at the mercy of themselves? What public service assurance when it comes to public service deliverance? A lot of bureaucracy, and a lot of that we need to address. Corruption still remains a disease which we need to handle, and the head of state is still adamant as to making the same references which we have seen in other speeches.
And the president of the republic took the oath today for a seventh time to solve these problems. Ako John Ako, political analyst, thanks so much for coming. We're now going over to the OPEC city of Limbe in the southwest region of the country, where our correspondent Davidson Maimu gathered some reactions after the swearing-in ceremony of President Paul Biya and compiled this report.
City dwellers in Limbe are more or less concerned with the swearing-in of the head of state Biya Paul as President of the Republic of Cameroon for another 7 years mandate, as they go about their activities unperturbed. However, as usual, CPDM militants gathered at the party secretariat of Fako 1A, watching the event live on TV.
It's the third time I'm experiencing the swearing in of the president. The first one was in 2004, the second was 2011, and today is 2018, the third time.
But as Anglophone Cameroonians, they are all worried about the Anglophone crisis.
This time around, he spoke about it and said he will personally make sure it comes to an end. And that thing has taken a toll on us the Anglophone. So if he says he's going to come in and make sure the thing goes down, then I think I'm very happy because he's going to help all of us. So I want to appreciate his speech if he's going to stand by his words, because saying it is another thing and doing it is another thing.
Everything being equal, they can only pray for dialogue and peace to be established.
For the issue of Northwest and Southwest, we know that God will give him the wisdom to handle it better.
We should all pray for him so that when doing the implementation of all what he needs to do for these 7 years, God will guide him through.
The wish of every Cameroonian, especially Anglophones, is for President Biya Paul to correct some of the flaws and errors made by Paul Biya for a better and more prosperous Cameroon.
Davidson Maimo reporting there, and coming up, Innocent as he takes a look at recent happenings in the Anglophone parts of the country.
Anglophone Cameroon, many say, remains an insecure zone with gunfire, killings, arbitrary arrest, torture and abduction cases registered on daily basis. This has led to what many today term the chronic Anglophone crisis due to its poor handling by government of the Republic of Cameroon. What now makes Cameroonians shiver and dumbfounded is abduction of close to 80 students, a teacher and a bus driver of the Presbyterian Secondary School, PSS Nkwen, Bamenda Tourist Subdivision in the Northwest region early Monday by unknown individuals. Their whereabouts remains unknown, but government points accusing fingers at fighters loyal to the Amazonian Defense Force. Many have questioned how possible the said Amber Boys could have abducted students in a highly militarized region amid curfew prevalence. Amazonian Defense Forces have on the other hand disclaimed allegations by governments they kidnapped the students. In reaction, Northwest Governor Adolele Lafrique, November 6th, signed a release prohibiting movement of vehicles from one subdivision to another in Mezam Division and from one division to another in the Northwest region till further notice. Principally, Bamenda 1, 2 and 3 subdivisions of Mezam Division will be highly affected and only authorized persons will be tolerated to circulate. This to the governor is to facilitate such operations of the missing PSS students. The abduction of these students occurred after the kidnapping of the divisional officer for Noni subdivision in the Bui division of the Northwest region, Martengwa, by gunmen Sunday, November 4. He remains missing till today. In Batibo subdivision in Momo division of the Northwest region still, 2 men working with the Batibo council were allegedly murdered brutally at the Guzang market by gunmen known to be separatist fighters and their corpses dumped at a roundabout. According to sources, the 2 men with one known as Sakwe Cardinals Elangwe, working with the legal department of the Batibo council, were killed for helping some uniformed men buy them food to eat. We are told tension still prevails in Bambwe Tuba subdivision in the Northwest region, where the American missionary was killed in a crossfire between pro-independence fighters and military forces last week. Many are still in fear, while some have evacuated the locality. President Paul Biya, in his speech November 6th, after taking oath into office for his 7th mandate, ordered secessionist fighters to lay down their arms and join other compatriots to build a new and more united Cameroon for the interest of all.
Je voudrais vous dire de ne pas perdre espoir. J'ai compris.
Innocent as they put in an end to this edition of the news. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Goodbye.